Diddy Kong Racing was Rareware's answer to the phenom that was the Mario Kart series. See, during the Nintendo 64 generation, Rare was literally Nintendo's dream team go-to developer. And of course, as they had grown a propensity to do during this era, they constantly answered the Big N with one-ups to their own console-wide efforts. And Diddy Kong Racing was the answer to the Mario Kart series as the British-based developer came to the forefront with their own version of what a kart racer for the N64 could do. And dare I say, it trumped the mighty Mario Kart series in a myriad of ways, not the least of which being its variety in gameplay. See, Diddy Kong Racing didn't just provide gamers with an answer to the Mario Kart series as a carbon copy, but it actually diversified in its gameplay to show a different side of the kart genre and kart racer we as players had never seen before. This was shown off as vehicle selection offered not only karts, but yeah, planes and hovercrafts as well. And believe me when I tell you, races were littered with players all over the map, all driving different vehicles, all on the same track. Now, of course, this meant that the game had to be designed with different modes of travel in mind. On top of that, you already know that multiplayer was a blast. And between the normal course-to-course racing, hub world race challenges, boss races, and silver coin challenges, this game was one that players picked up on launch date, and in some cases have been put down to this day. I mean, just ask me. I'm one of those that have been on the bandwagon in the campaign trail for a sequel being released on Nintendo's modern consoles. But in all honesty, the thoughts that flood my memories right now as I speak on this game are the multiplayer madness nights. That's right. Me and 2 or 3 other friends at a sleepover or a Getty, just going balls deep on this game and its multiple fun multiplayer modes. Man, I even remember hooking up my Mad Cat steering wheel and pedals to the old N64 to get that immersive racing sim experience with this title. I mean, that was a wild time, especially when it comes to the airplane option. But really, in all honesty, this is just one of those games that just oozes what the Nintendo 64 was all about. And that is innovation. Not just in the 3D aspect of every game that was releasing in its blessed library, but in the way these games were designed and what they were meant to do. There was just never any hint of a question on the N64. Every game coming out on it would be either worth investigating or experiencing. But when it comes to Diddy Kong Racing, at the end of the day, it was just a summertime multiplayer bonanza as well as a hell of a killer app for the revolutionary console. And because of that, there is no doubt whatsoever that it belongs in Reezonotic's top 20 Nintendo 64 games of all time. Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64. Man, talk about an epic title and one definitely worthy of the top 20 N64 games of all time mantle that I'm giving every game that comes across this video. Man, this was an exclusive game for the Nintendo 64. While PlayStation fans were enjoying the likes of TIE Fighter versus X-Wing, which was a PC game, but I believe it was ported to the PS1, and games of that nature. Nintendo had a deal with LucasArts and Factor 5, who back in the day was a hell of a developer for the console, to bring some exclusive titles, some exclusive love, if you will, to the Nintendo 64. And we had, first and foremost, Star Wars Rogue Squadron. What we have here, as you're watching the graphics on your screen, I mean, think about this. This was out in 97, maybe? I mean, look at this. It holds up to this day. We're talking about an exclusive game within the Star Wars universe, one of the most beloved franchises in pop culture and in the history of mankind for that matter. Exclusive to this piece of hardware, where you can take command of some of the most iconic vehicles in the Star Wars universe, be it an X-Wing, a Snowspeeder, an A-Wing, a B-Wing. The Millennium Falcon makes an appearance. Hell, things were so gangster back in this time. You gotta understand, man. This is why I'm an 80s to 90s baby, man. Back then, Episode 1 was getting ready to release in theaters, but this game came out before it. Back then, we didn't have no social media ruining everything. So, what the developers did was they designed the Naboo Starfighter to be a part of this game and lock it behind the code. Nobody knew about it. And once the movie released and people got to see the Naboo Starfighter on the big screen, then they released the code to GamePro, EGM, and other video game publications of the time, and we were able to play as a Naboo Starfighter for this game. But like the presentation, the fact that you're in the Star Wars universe, all these epic Star Wars locales, amazingly authentic Star Wars soundtrack is there, playing as some of your favorite characters, Luke Skywalker, Wedge Antilles, and the like. I mean, there's nothing else that needs to be said. Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64 was just a fucking masterpiece. And then on top of that, it takes advantage of the N64 expansion pack. For those of you who don't know, the expansion pack is an accessory you could purchase with your N64, aside from your N64, that adds to the system's internal RAM. It literally duplicates it, so you go from 4 megabytes to 8 megabytes. Now that doesn't sound like shit, but back in the day, that was amazing, and it was the only console doing this. It allowed for what we do today with our PS5s and our Xbox Series X's when we decide to play in high-res mode or high-performance mode. That was available back in 97, 98 with the N64. So there's so many ways this game innovates, but the fact of the matter is, let's just get down to the brass tacks here. You're having a exclusive Star Wars high-value experience on your console. No one else is playing this game. That is what makes this game so epic. Go back to it time and time again. And of course, that's why it's on my top 20 games of all time as far as it comes to the Nintendo 64. I mean, what are we really doing? Why are we playing? You already know what's up. I mean, look at these graphics, man. Star Wars Rogue Squadron on the Nintendo 64. All day, every day. Mystical Ninja starring Goemon. Man. Bro, if I can go back in time, before I ever played this game, and if you were to tell me that this would be one of my favorite games of all time, I probably would have shot you. Like, straight up, I wouldn't believe you. But this is one of the greatest games I have ever played. To be honest with anybody watching, it's 3D action platformer with light RPG elements that came out in a time where I didn't think any game in this genre had a time or a chance to succeed during that time. This was when we were starving for The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. This was probably like late 97 or mid 97, waiting for Zelda to launch. I got this game on a whim. I was very young, and my older sister felt generous and wanted to buy me a game because I had gotten good grades or something to that effect. I don't remember exactly why she wanted to buy me a game, but she was willing to do it, so I'm not going to pass up a free game. And we went to the Toys R Us back in the day, and just walking around there and looking at the video game section, and I saw Mystical Ninja for N64. So I said, bro, in my mind, I was like, bro, this is like Shinobi, Ninja Gaiden. I'm gonna get some of that, like hardcore, like fucking ninjas killing people action. Let's see what's up. Man, nothing could have been further from the truth. This was completely the opposite of that. And, in most cases, you would be right to think that I hated this game. Man, I absolutely love this game. The thing about it is, with this game, you got to understand it has a very quirky sense of humor, a very just weird sense of itself. You know, in the music that plays, what the story's about. You know, just the antics that happen in this game. But if you're able to deal with that, if you're able to deal with the quirkiness and the weirdness, man, you will discover an amazing 3D action adventure game. Like truly phenomenal. Like really. I mean, don't get me wrong, man. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time is a masterpiece, and it's you know what's gonna be in this video at some point. But I mean, it was like we were waiting for that. So to get this was very like you would think it would be unnerving. It would be like, oh my god, what the hell are we playing? But goddamn, it's so good. You play as Goemon, you know, very famous Japanese character. The franchise Goemon, Mystical Ninja Goemon, all that is very popular in Japan. It's not so much so here in the States for obvious reasons, because you know we're stupid and we don't like good stuff. But you know, like when I played it was just a 3D action adventure platformer with light RPG elements that took me on a wild ride, man. And it takes you to so many different locales within actual Japan. Like there's actual Japanese geography that happens. You go and visit Mount Fuji. You go to different regions of Japan that are actual geographical, you know, places, which adds to the authenticity of it. But it's just fun, man. All four characters that you control in your party that you can switch on and off between whenever you want, all have their own different abilities, their own different personalities, and it's just a great game, man. I mean, I was really surprised by this game, and at the end of the day, man, now 20 something years later, I look back at the N64's library, and Goemon Mystical Ninja is one of my favorite games on that library. Like I go back to this time and time again. Like every time I hook up my N64 or I play through emulation on my laptop. Thank you, Jason. You the dog. You the man. Dude, it's just crazy. I play through the entire game because it is that good of an experience. It is that well crafted, and it's just a fun game, man. I mean, there's nothing else, man. The game for me is just a myriad and a conglomerate of just warm memories. Like I love this game. Everything about it to me is just wholesome, fun, and just nostalgic in the best way possible. So man, it's definitely a game, man. If you guys are out there, you play N64, you're N64 collectors, or you want to see what the N64 is about, that's the game. Wave Race 64. Man, the name alone, bro. I mean, this is iconic to the umph degree, bro. Like, this game is literally my launch game with the Nintendo 64 back in the Christmas of '96 when my parents were awesome enough to get me the console. I woke up Christmas morning, I opened that console, I connected it, set it up, and this was the launch game that I got. And Mario 64 obviously was out. And I knew how great Mario 64 was, and obviously that will be in this video, but I was obsessed with Wave Race 64. I had seen so many screenshots on EGM, GamePro, and all the other video game magazines at that time. Again, we didn't have social media or the internet back then. And man, there was just something about it for my 11 to 12-year-old mind that blew my mind about, bro, you're giving me a jet ski? And I'm just riding down these waves and just going at blazing speed in 3D when we never had 3D before. I mean, it was just amazing, bro. I'll never forget that Christmas morning, man. It was such a great experience. But the fact of the matter is, the game itself, it's just a phenomenal racer, man. Because it's simple. There's not a lot of fluff or filler to this game, bro. It's just, bro, you're on a jet ski. It's you against 3 other racers, just rip-roaring down the waves and all that and trying to get to the end in first place. But the fact that it was done this well, and the water physics, the graphics for the time, man, I mean, even to this day, I mean, look at this now, dude. You're watching this now. Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, obviously it looks dated, but I mean, Jesus Christ, if you look at the way the water behaves, games today still can't get water right the way this game does it, man. I mean, it was just such a phenomenal fucking game and a great launch game. And it was really one of the main reasons that the N64 became my favorite console of all time. Because having this as my first experience just blew. Look at the water. Look at this. It blew my mind. It blew my mind. Like like before this, water in games was literally sprite drawn little ripples and waves. You know what I'm saying? Little triangles basically that you on a 2D left to right side scrolling plane went up and down. Here they had actual dynamics. There was actual physical repercussions for landing on a wave a certain way. Waves can toss you into things. The sense of speed, the sense of control, and just the way the jet skis controlled. I mean, there's a sequel on the GameCube, Wave Race Blue Storm. I love it. It's one of my favorite games on the GameCube. But I will tell you the truth, as good as it is, it doesn't hold up to this, because this was just like phenomenal, man. Like this was the introduction to a 3D space with actual water, like aqua dynamics coming into play. Like, I mean, bro, N64 was just killing it back here. But yeah, man, this is one of my favorite games of all time, man. I go back to this religiously, man. On the N64 hardware, through any kind of digital service that I have the game on, and of course on emulation. I mean, it's ridiculous, man. Literally, this game is responsible for the best Christmas morning as a child I ever had. I mean, they couldn't tear me away from this game, man. They tried to take me to my grandma's house, which I love to go to my grandma's house, especially on Christmas morning. That's a tradition for us. I was like, no, you can't. I'm not going. I'm not going. They had to drag me out of there.
Welcome to Southern Island.
I mean, it's just another example, bro, of the N64 and its dominance. And it didn't matter the genre. We're talking about, 3D action platformer, racer, fighting games, all of that, dude. Like, N64 had it on lock, man. Man, bro. Wave Race, the music, the graphics, all of it, man. Definitely one of the best ever. And that goes without saying. Like, it's in the top 20 for that reason. Just phenomenal racer, man. Like, I'm just watching this footage right now, and I'm just getting lost, and I want to go play it again. WCW NWO Revenge. Now, you guys have heard it said ad nauseum, not just by me, but by anybody else who covers video games. The Nintendo 64 was home to the absolute, beyond the shadow of a doubt, best wrestling games of all time. I mean, just look at this intro. NWO Wolfpack, NWO Black and White, Goldberg spearing you, bam, get out. Bro, straight up, the N64 had wrestling games on lock, man. And while WWF No Mercy was better than this game gameplay-wise, this is my top 20 N64 games of all time. And this is the game that I constantly go back to when it comes to wrestling on the N64. Namely because WCW was my company of choice. I mean, the 90s were so hot when it came to wrestling and so many other things, man. I mean, really, the 90s were where everything was better. I'm just going to be real. Music, movies, wrestling, all of it, dude. Gaming, everything. Everything was better in the 90s, man. Straight up, bro. 90s, late 80s, bro. But, WCW was going crazy back then. And so they released this game. And it to this day, man, I mean, we're in 2023, and to this day, it is literally the best wrestling game you can play. Because the grapple system, the control engine, is just so perfect for a wrestling game. It really needed never to be tinkered with. And, 2K Games and all these other companies that made wrestling games fucked with that engine, and the results were not favorable. You know what I'm saying? So, but this game had every fucking star you could want to play as far as wrestling. You had the Macho Man Randy Savage, you had Hollywood Hulk Hogan, you had Goldberg, you had Sting, you had Bret Hart, Roddy Piper, Diamond Dallas Page, Raven, Chris Jericho, Juventud Guerrera, Ultimo Dragon. You had so many wrestlers, bro, from the cruiserweight to the heavyweight division, and the authenticity in the gameplay experience showed you that, bro, this game was made by wrestling fans for wrestling fans. And that's what keeps me coming back to it even all these years later. And bro, and on the internet, there's a huge internet community of people that still mod this game and mod WWF No Mercy with current day wrestlers and current day arenas and all that. The game made that much of an impact, bro. This type of wrestling game made that much of an impact. I mean, you had everything: tag matches, singles matches, battle royales, up to 30 people. You could set the order when people come in, weapons, all that, man. I mean, it was just so great, bro. I mean, this is, I literally used to watch Monday Night Nitro, and then after it was over, jump on my N64 and play this shit, dude. So good, man. I mean, there's just so many memories, bro. And it has to do with the personalities involved also. The Macho Man Randy Savage, Hulk Hogan, Sting, all these legendary characters, man. It transcends the illusion of time, and the fact that we're in 2023 don't matter. I could play this and I'd be right back there again, man. And you got the Scorpion Death Drop, bop, there it is. You know what I'm saying? It was so good, man. I mean, and then this multiplayer madness, bro. Me and my friends, oh my god. Stayed up till the sun came up and damn near went down again. We still hadn't slept or bathed or anything, and we were playing this game. I mean, it's so good, man. This is what the N64 had going for it, bro. It just had all these great multiplayer bonanza type games. Look at that. Double team moves. Standard taunts. You know, special taunts. There's Diamond Cutter. Here it comes off the ropes. Here it is. What? There it is, man. And now we come to the creme de la creme. The reason everybody back in 1996 bought an N64, the reason the N64 was sold out for so long, the reason that parents were going crazy trying to find this console for their kids for Christmas of that year, or even in launch day in September of 96. Super Mario 64. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me, if you have not been properly introduced, to offer that introduction to that said bad motherfucker who revolutionized the video game industry in ways no other game, I'm convinced, in my lifetime ever will again. This game single-handedly took us from 16-bit, 32-bit even, 2D sprites, 2D environments, to full-fledged polygonal 3D worlds. And I think we all know now, if you follow video games, that rules our medium. 3D polygonal worlds, 3D polygonal models are what games are made of today. And the best thing is that, you know, developers are acting like they've been doing this forever, and it's like nobody knew how to do it until Nintendo did it with Mario 64. Super Mario 64, man. There's not anything I can say that hasn't already been said, so I'll just convey my experiences with it instead of trying to give it a critique or a review. Man, the sense of awe and wonder I experienced when playing this game. Moving my favorite little fucking plumber that I have been playing as my whole life, from left to right, all of a sudden moving him anywhere I wanted to move him. Like, you guys don't understand. This game literally turned the world that you were playing in on its head and literally gave you unlimited access to wherever you wanted to move, wherever you wanted to go. You can now do that because we're Nintendo. That's what we do. We just revolutionized. I mean, bro, Mario 64 was that fucking masterpiece, dude. I mean, I remember when they released Mario 3D All-Stars Collection on Switch. As much as I love Galaxy and I love Sunshine, I didn't get it for those games. I got it because it gave me a way to have before. This is before the, you know, Nintendo Switch Online came around. with the N64 games. It gave me an option to have 3D Mario 64, in the palm of my hands. I mean, this game blew our minds back in '96, man. I mean, the fact that you have all this freedom of movement. Just look at the way I'm running. I'm just running wherever the hell I want. Up, down, left, right, in between, diagonal. It doesn't matter. That's where Nintendo 64 just curb stomped the fuck out of the competition, man. And this was the game. This was the game that showed the entire video game industry. Sony, Microsoft, you're welcome. Sega, you're welcome. This showed them how to do gaming in 3D. Oh my god, the worlds in this game, the different level design, the music. I mean, this really was an adventure, man. In this game, you got lost and just enjoyed being lost in all these different exotic locations. I mean, it was just perfect. And the concept of jumping into a painting and then arriving in that world and being able to interact in 3D with that world. Man, they just had it on lock, man. Straight up. Quite possibly the greatest game of all time. No bullshit. I still feel like that after all this time. I go back and forth between Breath of the Wild, this, and a couple other revolutionary games, but Mario 64 just had the biggest impact any game could ever have.